is there any? Yes. Yes, of course.
I talk.
Please. Yeah.
Just one thing, because I think we're talking a lot about socializing and being within a certain like comfort or whatever, but I think the idea of being isolated for a bit is very underrated. Like sitting.
Say that again, so I didn't hear that.
The idea of being isolated for a bit is underrated,
Isolated.
I think, because we tend to escape from that. And just like Yara was saying, faith or prayer or whatever, I think we put them in two different areas, but they're very important for you to daily maybe evaluate yourself, sit with yourself, and to be able to, just like you were saying, love yourself and maybe evaluate yourself and maybe think about the person or the relationships or whatever, where the trauma is. I think we talk a lot about sitting in social groups, but we don't, we tend to not stress on, you have to reflect, I think, every day.
Totally, reflection is a key in all of this, and I think isolation. You talk about isolation, however,
It's not the right word. I don't know.
But you talk about it's very
Solitude,
interesting
maybe.
because you talk about isolation. However, you mention faith. You're not really isolating. You are connecting
You're
to
connecting.
something higher than the be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
But maybe isolation was not the right word, but I mean sitting with yourself and connecting. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
absolutely,
yeah.
100%. I think, but in order to be able to do that, what we know is you need to co-regulate first. Because if not, what happens is, and this is where oxytocin, the hormone oxytocin shows up, is understanding that oxytocin is a healing component and hormone. That means when we start isolating ourselves, we stop connecting, we stop having that oxytocin. And there is a dance between oxytocin and vasopressin. Vasopressin is the other hormone, the sister hormone. And vasopressin is inflammatory, oxytocin is not. So we need to constantly be connecting in order to start feeling that healing component. There's a beautiful thing that I like to say. When you get oxytocin, the hormone, and a cell that's not movable, when you put them together, it has a heartbeat. But it has very healing components and elements to it. So when I say socializing, what I mean is I want your oxytocin to come up in order to start self-healing.
And socializing, I think it's the kind that feeds your soul. The kind of
Precisely, this is
socializing
why-
that feeds your soul, not the, because there is, that's why when you were talking about re-establishing connection, I was really moved by the word re-establishing, because now we have the space, or because we had the space to isolate a little bit, maybe forcefully, we have the space to re-establish this connection, re-establish or decide where we want to explore, not from a place of like, this is detrimental for me or this is bad for me, and this is not from a place of judgment, but from a place of what's making me find my joy. Because when you were saying it's like Yara isn't, no, Yara's not at all. Honestly, Yara, as I said, there's like a window, like I have that access to that joyful person. And the more I do the work, the more I reflect, and as Walid said, the more you kind of, you're honest with yourself, like, this was an action, I made this action out of lack of trust, 100%, for myself and to the other, and it was horrible, But this is kind of the honesty that I can hold myself to, and maybe a little in a certain space, I can actually apologize. I can, like, I have reached that a little bit, برضو
Well done.
Yeah. Took work. No, but there's that access, I have access to myself when I'm in rest or when I'm in joy or whatever that state is. And then there's that also other state where I can access that the reactivity of trauma.
Say that again, make me understand that.
When I react out of trauma.
When there is a response.
It is very, right now it is very vivid, not right now in this session, but like in my life right now, it's very critical. Like, because it's like when my mom says this, I react. It's very specific, and it's like, and I know that it's, maybe we were discussing this earlier, and I'm like watching myself. Like, Yara, you're walking into that. you know.
Yeah.
I'm watching myself. I'm like, Yara, just stay, you know.
For the example that you've just presented, for me, it'd be like, how can you create safety enough within the relationship with your mom in order to be able to share the fact that when she says this, it triggers your nervous system.
About
Right?
it.
You know what I mean? So I think this is coming back to the ventral superheroes that we have. These are people that are non-judgmental. They make you feel safe for one particular reason or another, and that you can have those open discussions and say, hey, when this happens, this is what goes on with me.
Oh, I love that.
And how do you create that safety?
So I like that. So I like that because it's, as a mother, it can, like, I can look at it, you know, how things go down the family kind of thing. So as a mother, I would take that as a note to create that safety within that conversation with my daughter, and maybe wait for this kind of safety to be created for me as well.
Precisely, yes, absolutely. But some people, unfortunately, don't have the skill sets or the awareness that you do. And what's stopping you of bringing that conversation into the forefront and saying, this is happening. So there's so much. But yes, but that's the reality of it. We're very lucky that people that are in the world of mental health and self-development have some skill sets and tools.
Yes.
And sometimes we say we need to use them on us all the time. Whereas coming back to this social,
I love that.
the wantingness of the biological imperative of wanting to co-regulate, why not bring those tool sets to those individuals that are in your life?
And I think there's another thing that I wanted to just comment about, the idea of intuition. Because I feel like we're living in a day and age where intuition is kind of, again, exaggerated. Like, I'm an intuitive person. You know, it's kind of like, I can read you, you know.
Who you are.
I can, you know, that intuitive person, while it could be just trauma speaking. Like, or it's a neuroception.
For me, like I said, I come back to the same thing. Anything that shows up detrimentally and is maladaptive and is preventing you to be in the present moment is trauma, for me. And it might be a small T trauma, a big T trauma, but it's still trauma. It's still showing up. We have trauma essentially is a disease of not being in the present moment. That is trauma.
That's simple. I think that's a simple enough definition that resonates with me. Trauma is, again?
Trauma is a disease of not being able to be in the present moment.
I love it.
Go. Yes, please.
Thank you. So we've been talking about old memories. My question is about recent memories.
Yes.
What makes a person hovering over his recent timeline, and it's not really sorted out in a correct order? Like, sometimes you think yesterday is 3 days before, and last week is like yesterday.
Rephrase that for me, please. Sorry.
So about recent memories,
yes.
Sometimes a person gets into a phase when he thinks into his mind the recent days aren't in the correct order.
Okay, so that's trauma. This is what the work of Bruce Perry, neurosequential model. He speaks about when we start losing the ability to measure time and space, it's because it's stuck in a medulla. And that means the process of information is not doing the full circuit to the prefrontal cortex. So that's what you're telling me. So the question is, what is the situation? What was happening? That's essentially what's happening. So if we were to consider Bruce Perry's work, he talks about there is a sort of a sequel of events that happen. And with that sequel of events, we can determine what's actually going on and whether it's trauma or not, and whether trauma is stuck. In that case, what we know is it's at the beginning of the process period, of the proper sequence. So it's not even getting to the prefrontal cortex in order to be able to process the trauma. So understanding what the trauma is, what's happening in your life, you're highly dysregulated. What that would tell me is a person is very, very dysregulated and is completely rushed with cortisol. where the brain is completely collapsed.
So, should this person look at the recent past or the old one?
This person should take about, I think, it will really depend, but for me, it would take about 6 weeks to regulate them without even speaking about any traumas, just working on meditation, mindfulness, exercise, the outdoors, co-regulating with people. Just that is a therapy in itself. The thing is, when we see meditation, we see all of these, is when it's done with intentionality, it becomes therapy.
Yeah.
There needs to be intention on what we do. The thing is, what we're finding nowadays is a lot of pseudo-healing. There's a lot of yogis out there.
Yeah.
And then they're in the car and they're screaming to everyone else, right?
That's true.
And you find this all the time. Are they actually doing the work? It's the intentionality. Why am I doing the yoga? Why do I want to connect with my body? How breathwork is incredible. Breathwork is, for me, the number one. My client comes in, are you doing breathwork? No, let me send you someone. That's the first thing they do, breathwork. The ability to be able to be in that space for themselves. Sit with their own thoughts, which is very, very important, but also being in a space that they can be with their own thoughts. We have this idea that we send people away, oh, just do meditation. Some people can't do that, and it's highly dysregulating for them. So the first question to them is like, can you sit with yourself? No, okay, I'm gonna get someone to sit with yourself, or I'm gonna sit with you while you're doing the meditation. And I'll just be in the room. And the person is doing meditation with an instructor, and I'm just sitting in the room. And you're just going through that process, because what they need is to be held. This idea of, and I'll go not slightly off topic, but this idea of therapists being very sort of stoic, that's changing. I give hugs to my clients. I hold my client's hand when they're going through trauma. And at one point in our therapeutic sort of world, they thought that was completely alien. You couldn't do this because you're creating a dependency. We're all dependent to each other. Why am I not supposing the person that's coming for this? So I'll ask my client, do you want me to hold your hand? What can I do? Whilst you're going through this trauma, what can I do? And the patient was like, do you mind sitting beside me? Or do you mind leaving the room? I've had clients of mine said, I want to be on my own. I was like, okay, let me just
So they get grounded first, and then they talk.
Sorry?
They get grounded.
They need to get regulated. I think this is what I'm trying to achieve as well, which I'm going to find it really hard, is GPs calling stress. Stress is dysregulation. If I tell a person in my clinic, you're dysregulated, the first thing the person will say, how do I regulate myself? But if I go into a clinic and my doctor says you're stressed, I'm like, okay. Right?
Very much.
So let's just start changing the narrative of
The language
we are
of
just dysregulated. We can find our way back to regulation. One of the beautiful things about neuroscience and this world is neuroplasticity. The brain keeps on changing and developing and growing. Let's play with that. Let's make the best of it.
Yeah. And I mean, after because I always think that that's a path of evolution.
Totally.
That's not a path. It's not, knowing yourself is not just to know yourself to heal or whatever that means.
Yeah.
It's self-mastery. This is how you can know what moves you and what you're powerful in, and how you can present yourself into the world, and what's your purpose and what's your message. And, it's like, we're not doing the work to just only to regulate.
Yeah.
No, because after that regulation, there's so much more.
And to add to that, we are no longer the person we were a month ago.
No, we're not. Like, I feel
And
that's
okay.
I feel that's every day. Yani,
And we have this constant narrative that we need to be somewhere, be someone, when that is constantly changing.
Yeah, but we have to accept that. We have to accept the fact that we change. The concept of the fact that our cells is in full and constant motion and constant change.
Yeah.
And even your skin, like in every, I don't know I mean, maybe in 7 years you change all your skin with cells. I mean, that's such a hopeful, for me, it's a very hopeful thought.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, whatever happened, and I just need to shine a little bit light on it, accept it, and move on.
And it's interesting that you bring the word hope into the space, because this is what most of the people that are going through severe depression is they lose their hope of a better day. And by going to the grounding and doing the regulation work, there is an element of, I can feel better. But this is what we know. this is another thing that I like to say, which is, as therapists, people come to us not to say, so how are you feeling? Tell me about your day, la 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 la. All this narrative that is constantly on it, because they need to find the answers themselves. If I tell to my client, no, you're doing yoga because I know it's going to help you, because obviously we've established that yoga is not a trigger, I know that that's going to help them. Why not say that? Why we have a lot of therapists nowadays just not necessarily instructing the client and saying, this is what you need to do. You need to eat better. You need to sleep better. Sleep is another one that needs to be considered.
Yeah.
Like sleep is probably the sort of the building block of everything.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough sleep, what you find is, sorry, what sleep? Well, you can. So what you find is very interesting. By sleeping more, you regulate yourself. By regulating your sleep, you sleep more. And that means, and sometimes what we need is some help. 100%. And I get it, but for me, it's like I will give to my clients melatonin. They haven't slept, I'll give them melatonin for 4 days and then take the melatonin away and see where's that. But within those 4 days, we're working on regulation. We're bringing that body back into the feeling and feeling safe.
I have a question.
Go.
What you give melatonin. What about other medications to relax or calm down the nervous system? A lot of therapists tend to do that. That's
I don't. I'm very holistic in that sense. I'm very organic. Melatonin is the only thing I push, and that's because I take it myself.
so nothing to calm the body, especially if you're going into a session and you feel like that's a heavy. I've had a therapist once after a session give me something because they're like, this is a lot. You can use that right now.
Yes, but it really depends on the kind of therapist. If we're talking about a psychiatrist, they can prescribe other medication because they feel like that your affect tolerance is not going to be able to handle it. Would I do that? I wouldn't. The first thing I would, if a client has had a really tough session, I would say, who can you call?
Yeah, the co-regulation is a big one.
Yeah, who can you call? And the client says, I can call my mum. Okay, get your mum on the phone. Let's just sit with it. And I'll put the mum on the speaker and we'll have a conversation and you notice the client regulating and breathing. And you're like, okay. And then I'll say, let's go for ice cream. And they'll go for ice cream. And they start feeling better. Maybe that trigger might show up later on the same day. One of the things I have with my clients is I'm very flexible. That means that they can contact me at 10 o'clock at night and I'll be like, hey, how are you doing? And they'll be like, oh, the pain is coming back. Okay, what do we know about this pain? And we'll go through the sequence. And it's a small message, but for them, it allows them to say, okay, I can deal with this. Or maybe say, I need to come and see you tomorrow morning. It really depends. But yeah.
I have another question.
Go.
I'm an actor, and a lot of times we embody characters that hold a lot of trauma. And then afterwards, I feel like my nervous system is screwed because I took something I cannot handle. Is that dangerous if you're already going through trauma and embodying something that is not necessarily similar, but putting your body in that same state of fight or flight?
Well, it's not helping. Definitely not helping. Whether it's safe or not, I can't say because I don't know you well enough. But what I can say is we need to start understanding who we are as individuals as well and how we work. So if that is causing stress and you know about it, one of the things I'm finding is that you know a lot, right? And there's a lot of self-awareness. That's beautiful, that's magic. Just play with that and be okay with that. Be okay with the feeling of that. I'm feeling this way, just be there, just sit with it. And if you feel like you can't sit with it, just reach out. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
When you have multiple sclerosis, for example,
Yes.
the myelin sheath of the nerves is depleted.
Yes, absolutely.
And the cure is concentrating on how to restore that.
Neurogenesis.
Yes. So when your nervous system,
Sorry?
when your nervous system is depleted,
Yeah.
and you're tired, you're not motivated, whatever, what are the physical things, 3 physical things that you can do
Yeah,
that
so
would help you the most?
It's very interesting. So let me just tell you about the neurobiology of that so we can understand it a bit better. What happens is when the body goes into a state of fight or flight, there is a hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And that is your fight or flight responding to whatever threats you're having. That goes up to your brain And what it does, it floods your brain with cortisol. When you're in a prolonged state of that state, the brain starts shrinking. Neurogenesis stops happening. So your prefrontal cortex is not regenerating, right? So this is what we call depression, major MDD. In the state of multiple sclerosis, the three things that I would offer, again, I come back to the same sequel. One is co-regulation, because I know that helps the person regulate, therefore neurogenesis is happening. Meditation, which is crucial, the ability to go into thought and imagery work, crucial as well. And the other one is, funny enough, is the ability to be surrounded by natural elements.
In nature.
Nature, but to be exposed, for your body to be exposed to it. So I would get someone with a certain condition, that particular condition, that I will take them to the forest, and I will probably ask them to take, maybe if it's a bloke, to take a shirt off, for them to start really embodying the feeling of nature. That exposure therapy is very, very important as well. Yeah, these are three elements I would do. There's a lot of people that within that, to add to that, will go into eating, obsessive eating, because they find a lot of reassurance through it. And this is not something because the person feels insecure. This is your nervous system regulates when you eat. When you digest, your vagus nerve
Calms down.
There we go. So people that are going through MS, particularly, you will find them putting a lot of weight. And they do that because they're trying to find regulation.
I love that you tapped into that. Because I was just thinking of that. And after the heart attack,
yeah.
I gained so much weight. And it was as if my body was retaining it for safety. Like if I'm heavy, like this was, I mean, that was a clear thought for me. If I'm heavy, then I'm gonna be here. You know, I'm gonna be here, grounded here in this. And then that's another aspect of it. And when you eat, you're indigested. So it like takes you from anxiety. I love that.
So I had, so there's a condition called orthorexia, which is the other spectrum of anorexia, which is where the person eats so healthy that they start becoming anorexic. So what they do is they carry a bag to counterweight the weight that they used to have. And that's the memory that conversation just brought to me.
Yeah.
So they'll walk around with a big bag in order to ground
give them that grounding. So it's actually, there is truth to it.
100%.
Like, I mean, there is truth to it because there's always that, you know, that the topical was like, you have to lose weight, it's a high blood pressure, because my issue is high blood pressure, right?
Yeah.
So high blood pressure rises with weight. It's a
and dysregulation. And
100%. Yeah, we're gonna tap into cortisol. Just a minute. But it did bring me a lot of comfort.
Okay.
Like it did bring me a lot of like, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm good, you know?
Yeah,
funny.
Makes a lot of sense. I think, particularly with digestion, which one of the stages of the polyvagal theory, or the understanding the nervous system, is that stage of collapse. That stage of collapse, when you blend it with the ventral, you're in a state of stillness. However, when you are, this is interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So when you are in a state of collapse on its own, what you find is you want to eat to regulate in order to bring you up that sort of autonomic ladder into your fight or flight. And the thing is, it's so interesting because we don't go from the dorsal to the ventral. We go from the dorsal to the fight or flight again, and then up to the ventral social engagement system. But we have blends, and playfulness is a blend between ventral and sympathetic, because you do need some adrenaline, and the adrenaline, no adrenaline comes from your sympathetic,
That's very a little complicated for me to wrap my head around, honestly, but it's like a little, it's fine. Okay, then we need to explain further then.
And
It's not just me.
what about the opposite? I mean, when people accumulate stress, they sometimes tend to eat less.
And that's your dorsal state again. One of the things that we find is when you're in your fight or flight, for the body to maintain and regain energy, it stops the digestive process. It doesn't want to eat because the body's trying to save, to stay alive, to survive.
So it's not one size fits all.
It's not one size fits all, that's definitely. I've had everything. I've had people going from eating a lot to not eating and eating, and those are just shifts of states. One of the things that we need to understand, I believe, is like we are constantly shifting. So, when they say, I felt great and then I felt not so great, that's normal. This is life. Life is not all about drinking margaritas by the beach. There's
up and down. Yeah. I love that because, a healthy, because obviously blood pressure is my forte, where I need to always... This regulation of the blood pressure, whatever you want to call it. I'll give you my doctor's number. We need to have a conversation with him. The idea is that it's not a flat line. Blood pressure shouldn't be.
Of course not.
It has to be. It goes up and it goes down. The health of it is the agility to respond. While going up and going down, and then going up, and I think it takes us back to the nervous system.
And this is what Stephen Paul just mentioned as heart rate variability.
Yeah.
The wider it is, the more we can deal with stress. So when you meet someone with a heart rate variability or heart rate very close to each other, essentially what data proves is that person in high stressful situations will fall away from the window of tolerance. Whereas someone that has a larger one could navigate that situation slightly better.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to tap into cortisol and the cortisol cycle because I think that's a big one, and now that we can measure it, we can measure the cortisol level, the hormone level.
Yeah, but we don't. That's the issue that we're having.
I know, but I mean, like, if we can, then we're gonna have an indicative, because I'm big on numbers. I'm big on numbers. So when I have something that I can measure and know that, okay, fine, is this area, this is how high stress feels.
So it really depends on the person. So there's not an actual measurement. There's a lot of people that live in very low cortisol and they live perfectly happy, and high cortisol and they live perfectly happy.
Okay.
What we know is a response to stress. That's what we need to measure. And what we have is the homeostasis. Homeostasis is the balance of all the organs in our body, and our body's constantly seeking homeostasis. But because of what we're trying to survive, survival takes precedence. Survival is a main thing that we need to do in order, if not, nothing works. So when it comes to cortisol, what you have is a feedback loop. So when you have the HPA axis activated, the fight or flight, everything starts working.
What's that, the
HPA axis,
okay,
hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
Okay.
And that happens when cortisol rushes from, so you have the amygdala, and the amygdala receives a message, passes distress signals to your hypothalamus goes down to your adrenal glands, rushes CRH hormones up to your brain, and that's when everything goes.
Fight and flight.
That's it, that's when you're like running. So when that happens, even in that first loop, the body is trying to reach homeostasis. So the more regulated you are, the less cortisol you find. Remember that cortisol is a necessary hormone. And cortisol is what we had this morning. Before we sat down, we were stressed, and it's normal. It gives us a lot of power. It allows glucose levels in our brain to increase, hypervigilance, but also decreases the serotonin. It decreases our pain sensitivity. When someone walks into a fight and says, well, I've been hit 100 times and I didn't feel anything.
I don't feel anything.
And the reason why is because your body's completely rushed with cortisol.
What does it mean to have low dopamine levels?
Dopamine, what does it mean? Yes. Yeah, so serotonin and dopamine are very closely related. What you find with dopamine is that it comes intrinsically, is secreted by the brain when you're going through pleasure. The problem that you have with traumatized individuals is that they can't feel pleasure. So the brain doesn't allow it. So when you have someone in a depressive state or in a very stressful, prolonged state, that dopamine is practically non-existent. Dopamine is the one that allows you to jump and be happy, and it adds to the serotonin, so it's a cocktail of hormones.
So how can we release the cortisol? Or how can we regulate cortisol?
We come back to the same thing. I think that the ability of regulating your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is the one that determines everything in your life. Whether it's your experiences and whether the way that you live and how you show up. So cortisol is, how do we decrease the cortisol levels? I would say start adding tools to your toolbox that you can use. Because you might have, so what we have is say two responses to stress. One is the HPA axis, which is the one I mentioned, and the other one is SAM, which is sympathetic, adrenal, medullary axis. Sorry, I'm terrible at this. One releases, the former releases cortisol, and the latter releases adrenaline and noradrenaline. Those are the elements. So the difference between one and the other is how long do you stay in a state of stress. So the first one is activated, and then when it's too long, it goes into the other one, and that's the one that causes after a month, or after 2 weeks to a month, that's the one that we call depression. That's when the mood starts. The first one is the SAM, and the second one is the HPA axis, yes.
So the HPA axis is fight or flight?
No, the SAM is the fight or flight.
And the other one?
And the other one is the prolonged fight or flight, but you no longer are in a fight or flight. You're just going into a state of depression. Because you can't be in that state. Because the body can't take adrenaline 24/7. It'll be, like the first one is when you go to a kitchen and you burn yourself. That fight or flight, straight up. The other one is a more prolonged, sustained sort of feeling, mood. And this is when people say, I feel numb. I don't feel myself. I don't know what's going on. And coming back to, I wanted to add this actually. People think that depression comes from an experience in life. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a prolonged state of activation due to whatever, and you never regulated. And what you did in that space is forced reparation, which is you regulated within the sympathetic nervous system. That means you're never regulated. Well, you believe that you are because you're better than the collapse, but you're not going into your ventral.
Trauma is never being depression.
Yeah.
That also includes always being depression.
Yeah, that's anxiety. That's anxiety. There's a beautiful quote by, I can't remember, I think it's, I think there's a beautiful book by, I think it's Siegel that speaks about anxiety being living in 10 steps in front of us, right? And I love that. Also, anxiety is the one that deals with SAM. SAMS deals with the anxiety. The first response, fight or flight, deals with the anxiety. The prolonged state of that is anxiety, and then it goes into depression with the HPA axis. So there is a change on how the body reacts to it, because the body will also get tired, and that's the state of collapse.
Yes.
And then you spend 2 days in bed, and then you face the world again. It happened to me. So I was a personal trainer I was doing 16 hours a day as a personal trainer. I was traveling all around the world. I wasn't getting a break. What I noticed was, funny enough, so a year in, I started feeling not so great, and I started spending 2 days every 3 months in bed. And which was completely, what the hell is happening to me, because I'm not like ex-army, and then it became every month, and became every week. I had to spend the day in bed. My body was constantly going into collapse, and I was regulating on the sympathetic, not on the ventral, which is what we want. Another thing to point is that and this is coming to the neurobiology of trauma, we regulate on the left-hand side of the brain, which is a logical side of the brain, the one that understands language. But there's a moment that it switches to the right side of the brain, and that's when it becomes chaotic. We need to be aware of that. Sometimes it just bypasses the left and goes straight into the right, and what Gabor Mate says is that the space between stimuli and response, the time, is trauma. So that means if there's a stimuli and my response is straight away, there's a big trauma around that space. However, if there's a stimuli and there's a long, prolonged thought process on how can I respond to this, the trauma is smaller, but still needs to be addressed.
I like that. Yes.
First is personally, I'm also
100%.
That's what I do, and I cover it by saying I'm a mentor as well, and I allow them.
That's fine.
Sometimes you
The,
get that light bulb,
the,
and you're thinking, I want to give them advice, and this whole thing about, no, this should
Briefly.
not. I mean, so I just want to make sure I got it right.
100%. Well, in my world, and this is my world. I would suggest or recommend that you read the book. Phil Studs. He speaks about this. He speaks about the ability of people coming into his clinic and him giving some sort of advice. Yeah, precisely.
The other one is relating to the whole self-compassion.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm so forgiving of everybody
Yeah.
except myself.
Absolutely.
Like crazy. I'm like not giving. And how do you how do you learn to?
So the first thing that I'm going to say is we often teach what we can't have. So the reason why we do be compassionate with others is because we can't take it ourselves. How can you be with that? It's a big question.
Yeah, like how not to be so hard on myself.
And that's the inner critic. That's the person we need to get to know.
عايزين نعشيهم بقى دول.
That's the inner
We
critic.
need to take them out for dinner.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think I'm an extreme in forgiving others. It's like a bit of an extreme. It's not balanced. And then with me, I'm just so tough on myself. It scares me.
Obviously, without going too much into it, I feel there's a deep sense of insecurity there, hence why you show up in the way that you do. It doesn't make it wrong, but like coming back to what I said earlier, instead of understanding why it's happening, what can I do with this? It's the most important thing. And
Awareness is a good start.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
because this week it's been like, as I said, it's the theme coming everywhere. So
Compassion, compassion is a beautiful word to be thrown about. But what does it actually mean? And that is so to the person. It's unique to the individual. And it also is unique to what the person understands of compassion to be. Because I could have lived in a house where compassion was to have tea every morning. And that's my understanding of compassion. So it is very unique to the individual.
But can you give like an example of acts of self-compassion that, general?
Honestly, there's an array of things out there. You can do this, you can do that. For me, compassion is awareness. Being able to be really aware with what actually is going on. I've got clients of mine that will say, I've got a client of mine that went to Cuba, and she's probably listening now. And while she was there, she was sending me messages, my nervous system feels like this. And this is what I'm doing in order to regulate. And there's times that one thing might regulate you, that works, and that same thing might not help you regulate in other circumstances. And that's okay, So I think with you, compassion starts with self-awareness and really noticing how your body reacts. Noticing, just take that second and say, what's happening now? Okay, I can feel that. Okay, cool. And then when you get back home, reflect on it, which is what we were saying earlier.
I'll just connect to what you said earlier. The first thing which I liked and I actually lack, you said patience. So I think it's also what you said, baby steps, because with everything you said, it's training and it's so. We think sometimes, or I feel that we think with the speed and the life we live in, I've done those steps, I meditated for a month. Where's my self-compassion? I did this for 2 weeks. What happened? I went to a therapist 5 times. And I think what we really, really lack is the trust and the patience. I think this is what you said at the beginning, it's the key. And this really resonated with me. Because I don't have that at all, because I'll be like, I've read 10 books.
It comes back to the same situation that we find ourselves now with social medias and the accessibility to information. Yes. What we find is that we're training a lot of parents say, my kid is obsessed with the phone or the iPad. It's not the item that they're obsessed with. It's the ability to gain information on getting what they want there and then.
Yes.
So that's
the
what it is.
satisfaction of it.
The reward system that we have, we are programming, we are helping kids or program what they should be expecting. So patience.
And we always need answers now. Like Mazen Tara is asking, how do I have self-compassion? Give me the answer now. Steps now, I'll do it now. Next month, I'll have it. I'll master it.
Let's simplify this. The fact that you say, I want to have Chinese tonight, and you go online, and there's 100 Chinese restaurants. Whereas before, you had to go into the Boo Book, look for the number, think, okay, my friend went to a Chinese, let me call him. There was a bit more elaborate role of us to be able to get to the information. Whereas now it's like, that. Yeah, of course.
So it becomes less about the journey and more about the target, you know, and we're already programmed that this is good. To reach targets is good, to be productive is good, to just get everything, you know.
It's great, but understand who's saying this.
Absolutely, absolutely, because honestly for me, I don't think that's, I extend self-compassion to myself when I'm able to pause and rest. Yes. And I'm like, bravo, Yara, you sat and did nothing, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Like, this is the space where the other space, because okay, fine, we all go to meetings, we all excel, we can all have a success story if we want to. That's something accessible. This is something we've been wired to create. But the flip side of that, do you know how to rest?
Yeah,
do you know how to sit still?
Psychoeducational therapy goes a long way.
Yeah.
We live in the present moment in this life that most of us are educated. That we've read a lot, we understand a lot, our minds have been trained to absorb information, to be able to put things into practice. Why are we not using that to a space that would make sense to us? Particularly with therapy, why are we not sharing what the brain is actually doing? Why are we not sharing that we can do all of these stuff? Because people are willing to be sort of receiving of that information. And I think that's important as well.
On a personal note, knowing the information is one thing. Maybe it's a step, but actually doing things with intentionality makes the world of a difference. Because I could, like, prior the heart attack, what was I doing? I was working, yes. I was overworking, and I was dysregulated. But I did yoga. I went to Nepal. I went to Bali, and it was all, you know, it was all in my mind that I am like doing everything I can to be calm and good and collected, you know, and there was that arrogance to it. But the integration happened, or it made sense. Like I did everything. But I wasn't in it. I wasn't present.
I'm never going to forget this. I got a call from Mexico. A good friend of mine is my coach. And I said, I've read all these books. And he says, like, well, insidious knowledge. I said, what do you mean by insidious knowledge, man? Yeah. And he's like, well, Trevor, you're reading all these books, but you're not applying. So that time is essentially wasted. Why not just focus on one thing? And that's what I tell my clients. You know, when they come in and they say, oh, I've read 100 books. I say, okay, pick one. Let's work on this book.
Yeah.
Let's see what we get from this book. Yeah. And they'll read it 2 times and we'll explore it together. And again,
and actually do the work. Yeah.
And actually do the work and actually play with whatever is coming your way. Yeah. And coming back to what he said, playfulness is key in life. And not taking yourself too seriously is the most important thing they gave me an advice. You're not that important. If you make a mistake on a podcast, that's okay.
Yes, it is.
No one caught fire, did they?
Nope.
And that's okay.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I love this playfulness around everything. Honestly, I don't have access to it all the time.
No.
But again, I mean, that's patience and that's practice where you can, again, it's like a window of something, a version of Yara that I can see that is, oh, she's interesting.
Yes.
You know, she's relaxed. She's lovely. You know, let's try to be her a little bit more. Let's see what created that. You know, let's reflect on exactly.
Which is what I said. Once you start living in a state of regulation, the moment you are slightly dysregulated, whether it's with people or events, you'll notice that you don't want to be there anymore, and that's okay, and that's also important.
Fantastic. What's the time?
It's 1:15.
1:15.
We've gone for a while.
We've been going for a while. It's been quite a lovely attendance. Yes. You want more information about EMDR?
What would you like to know about EMDR? EMDR it's not a diagnosis-based therapy. It's a memory-based therapy. That means that we allow the client or the patient to go back into memory in order to restore whatever maladaptive memory has been stuck to the nervous system when it happens. So what? Sorry? Again, I go ask that question. I don't know enough about hypnosis. The difference for me, from what I know, is that we do bilateral stimulation, which is side to side, lighting up your neural networks, your memory networks, in order to process the information, where hypnosis doesn't do that. What we know is tapping sparks up your hemispheres and your limbic system to process information. So what we do is it's like processing information on steroids. It processes, and there's a beautiful element to EMDR, which is developmental repair. That means is we can give the person what they didn't have. So let's just say that you grew up with no brothers, and you're missing that, your nervous system is missing that. We can install that. We can take that back and just allow you the feeling that you were nurtured around a brother. And it's quite interesting, it's quite fascinating, because it's all imagery work. And again, I don't know enough about EFT. No, it's very different. Very different. To the tapping, that's very, very different. This is neurobiological. The reason why we tap from side to side is because it lights up your hemispheres and your limbic system to process information. Sorry? Oh, that's such a beautiful question. I always say that EMDR is timeless, because you might come in and we might resolve a trauma that is interrupting you in the present moment within 2 sessions. But for me, let's just say that I get a new client. For me, I come back to the same thing, state of regulation, and then we can do the work. Because if not, you're not going to be able to access that memory. And that memory might be slightly stained with other memories. So I need you to be very regulated in order to be able to address the actual pinpoint. Remember also that therapy is hypothesis. That we really don't know where the trauma comes from. We can only speculate, and we can only go there with the hope that that might resolve something in the front, in the present moment. But sometimes it's not. One of the things that I am doing some research on now is addressing trauma through regulation and not through intervention. And that means, can a person that is highly regulated self-heal their own traumas? And I had a client of mine, so my practice, I actually live with my patient for a period of 6 to 12 months. So he came to see me for 3 months, and mum had passed away, and that was his trauma. I need to resolve the grief of mum passing away. And I said, okay, cool. So we started doing the regulation work, and after 3 months, we didn't go there. We didn't go to mum. And I asked him, okay, so now that you're leaving the program, how do we resolve this mum issue? I said, Trevor, you know what? I think I've processed through my own regulation. So I'm just very curious to find out, and I'm going to do some research on this, particularly with my master's, is whether we can process trauma without direct intervention, whether through regulation and safety, that trauma, the mind has a natural ability to heal, whether it will heal on its own. I'm very curious about that. Right?
Very interesting.
Okay, we got another question.
Yeah.
Do you practice online, like work with you online?
Yes, of course. Yes. But for me, I think the face-to-face is very important. We need to go create a bond in that space, and then we can do online. So let's just say I get a client, I travel a lot, get a client in Dubai, I'll go there, spend 3 days with them, create that bond, that safety, that neuroception, that everything, and then we can move it online. Because the online becomes very, very distant, I think, very less connected, even though people connect really well online. But for me, in my own practice, I like to be with the person, get to know the person, and then remember that therapy is a peer-peer thing. We have this interpretation that therapy should be, I need to feel safe too. Because if I don't feel safe as a therapist, I'm being dysregulation into my room. I can't. So I need to feel safe with Yara in order to be here. If not, I'll be completely dysregulated, and I wouldn't. So the same with the therapist and the client. It's a two-way thing. You start to get to know your client, and your client starts to get to know who you are as a therapist, and that's important.
You can do that in a workshop setting, or it has to be a one-on-one, the EMDR?
I think you can do that in a workshop. And I think that most of the people that come together in these sort of venues and moments, they're all in the same journey. Then the journey of really getting to know who they are. So through that, just that principle, you can definitely do co-regulation work there, yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen it. I need to watch it. Yeah. So that's the only thing that I think I differ from other therapists, particularly in London and in the Western world, where they are very sort of driven by protocol. I decided to just not to do that because I come from Gibraltar. Gibraltar is very small. Coming back to the quote that I said, which is, "It takes a village to raise a boy." I was raised like this. I was a boy. I couldn't do anything in town without my parents finding out. So that's where it came from.
Yes, I think when you come from Alexandria, you relate. We're fellow Alexandrian. Yes. You're the loveliest parent, honestly. Yes. Can you?
Time I actually talk about it, so I'll try to put it into words. So part of what I do makes me work with underprivileged communities and people with different health problems. So on almost daily basis, I get to either be with someone who's fighting cancer or having a huge debt, so they're getting into jail, just tough circumstances. And I don't know, it's been going on for years. I've been doing this for over 15 years. But then what I realized is that, okay, thank you all for making this a very safe space to say that. But so what I realized is that I'm so empathetic with them and I get into, wholeheartedly in everything we're doing. But then I can just take my time for 10 minutes and go change. And the next hour, you'll find me in my best friend's wedding, dancing. And so I thought this is right. And I used to say this is what gives me the energy to do that. But then lately, I started thinking if this is healthy for me. Yeah. I don't know if I got the message.
I don't know whether there's a question there. Is it healthy for you? I think...
to completely disconnect, maybe I'm not sure if I get it, but I'll try. Yeah. To completely disconnect when you're in a space of trauma, basically, and then you can leave that space of trauma and switch.
Yes, I don't know if exactly.
This transformation is healthy.
Like, is there no, you have to take at least 2 hours. I don't know. I know each person's journey is different, but I don't know if this is something I have to...
Not necessarily. I think that what you're doing is surviving in the first instant at work and what you do, and that's okay. But I would really sort of create an awareness whether you're dissociating, how you feel in that space. Mm-hmm. And then give yourself, maybe within the space of 8 hours, 4 hours, give yourself the breaks to be able to check in with yourself and see where you are at. I think that you're doing an incredible job. Well done. And it's hard. Yeah. It's very hard.
It's bringing up for me, how you said you need to, as a therapist or as a practitioner of any kind in this self-mastery or in the wellness industry, you always have to come back to yourself and make sure that you're regulated. Yeah. Because again, at the end of the day, we're all human. Yeah. There's no one. Yeah. So there is time to give, and there's time to heal, and there's time to give again, and then I think that dynamic is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question on this because she just triggered this question. This cognitive distortion that happens when we see the world and what's going on in the world, the wars
now.
And that guilt or that, how do we cope with that? Do you have any advice on this? Because on that part, it's not like her. She's dealing with it like it's part of her daily life. But then this imbalance that happens.
It's a very hard one to answer. Because, and I'll tell you, because we're all living in this state right now where there's so much going on. and we don't know how to deal with it. But I would suggest that you protect yourself the best you can. If that means not watching the news and taking some time away from it.
There's that guilt of
100%.
of isolating and not, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So balancing it and then
Yeah,
feeling like I'll do my part
Yeah.
and then it's just so
I
hard.
watch the news because I feel normally if I see someone being hit right there, I'll go in and protect them. But when I'm watching the news, there's nothing
Helpless.
I can do about it. So all it creates is frustration and anger in me. Unless there's something I can do.
Yeah.
But it's also spreading awareness and like staying in the light.
People are very aware.
I think that if you have the capacity to do something, do whatever you feel is right for you. It's all about capacity. I've got the capacity to be able to show up in the world and be able to have a voice for people that don't have a voice. But if that is detrimental to you, I would reconsider. That's
Okay, go.
No, go ahead.
No, please.
I'd like to share a story, like a short story related to what everyone was saying, and also related to acting. So I'm a film director, and I was directing a film. It was a short film in Georgia, and I wrote it and directed it. And I chose someone who wasn't an actor, but I mean, he was a music producer, and I saw him, and I said, actually, I want you in that role. The role was a tough role. It had domestic violence and abuse and alcoholism and all of that. And he was the abuser in the film. And I wrote a line in my film. I wrote it myself even, and it was and he was telling his daughter, "Why should you be happy if I'm not happy?" It was a tough film. I mean, this is something that I don't usually do these types of films, but I wanted to explore that. And the actor stopped and said, "Actually, this is something I went through," and it was. So I said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do." Honestly. And I told him, if you don't want to do it, and you're free not to do the role, I can find someone else. Yeah. But then the whole experience, I always know that, I mean, it's a big part of my job to get actors into the role, but I didn't know it was also my responsibility on a personal level to get them out of the role, at least on a not totally, but I mean, at least when they're on set, I don't just make them leave if it's something difficult. And we have to go through something together, or my team has to take them back a little bit. I mean, I don't want anyone to harm themselves or to go through something difficult because of me. I mean, it's.
I think that what you're doing is what you're saying. How do you create the safety for them, right? I think that's a question.
It's technically not my job, but it's my responsibility. You know what I mean?
I come back to what I think. I come back to what Dostoevsky said, which was, we're not only responsible for what we do, we're responsible for what everyone else does, and that comes not from I want to control the world. It comes from, I want to create enough safety for myself that's reflected on the people around me, and particularly at work. So how do you create the safety within the space that if people feel the need to share the fact that they're dysregulated, how can you create that safety for them to come to you?
Yes, and I'll just want to tell you how I reacted, and maybe you can. Yeah. So I was going to do the music production with someone else for that film, but he said he wanted to do it because it would help him process it and all of that. 100%. So I actually gave him the part, and then he went through the music production, and we went through it together. Music production is it's the non-verbal expression of it, and like he hit all the feelings, like he dumped all the feelings inside. And it was lovely music, actually.
It's beautiful. That's called psychodrama.
Yeah.
In our world. We do psychodrama therapy, right?
Yeah.
We go and we recreate. I often find myself on my knees banging the floor with my clients, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like recreating the trauma that they went through, and really. So that's what you did. You allowed you did an incredible job. And what you're telling me, you created a safety for them to be able to process it in a healthy environment or safe environment.
Yeah.
And not just to do the part, but also to play with the music, because the music has a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
I didn't write the music myself, I wrote the lines.
Yeah.
And like all the characters and all of that, they can add a little bit and some emotions and all of that, all the work that the actor does. But the music producer has a lot more freedom, because this is a more technical job that I don't necessarily know how to do. I can direct it, but I'm not doing it myself. So to have the space to express and to really add a big part to it, and to use their art to process their own, and it added a lot more life to the experience that I didn't. I wrote the part as fiction, like things I've seen around. It's like all work of fiction, things I didn't experience, and this is why I wanted to explore that genre. because I wouldn't normally do it elsewhere because I haven't experienced that. But when he added this, he added a lot to the film because he added a lot of energy and emotion into it, which was.
I think pain carries a lot of creative energy, but that's another forte to discover, because I think expression, a lot of creatives, they create from a space of pain or from a place of heavy experiences, and then they get it out in their art, and this is I think how art is created, you know, because the heaviness of emotion is joy can be expressed easily. Yeah. You know, if I'm happy or joyful or in love, I would just run around and kiss and hug, you know. Yeah. But if I'm sad, in the other spectrum, I would tend to need my own time. So there's no other way but to express yourself through writing, through song, through filmmaking,
through, so interesting that you
through
say
painting,
that
through, you know.
Because what you find when we are working with children in my world, traumatic expression is through regulation. So I'll get a kid come into a smart room, which is sensory motor arousal regulation treatment room. They'll come in and they'll start playing, and very slowly, very gradually, they'll start adopting their traumatic expression. Yeah. Whatever they are going through, they'll mimic and behave in that particular way. And that's where the therapist really points, okay, what's going on there? Person might be from side to side, and you really need to understand it. So traumatic expression is a big one.
I love that, because maybe I paint when I know that I'm in a space where I cannot express my emotions, you know, and I know that's the only way I can express it is through color. Good art, bad art, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But this is my tool of just getting something that is stuck somewhere.
But it's interesting, but that's a tool that you have, because what you're telling me essentially is that you wanted to go into your social engagement system, even with yourself, and that creativity, that curiosity, because obviously if you're going to be creative, there needs to be an element of curiosity attached to it. Yeah. So well done to you. You got a tool there.
Thank you. I've done my work. So I don't know if you guys you still have a little bit of stamina, because I wanted to talk about the window of tolerance a little bit, because I feel this is the space where we can actually come to a closure and have that kind of finality of the conversation. Because if you can explain what the window of tolerance is.
Well, it really depends on who is. Again, it's very unique and very subjective to an individual. But let's just start with how we started. As a concept, you know? So the window of tolerance is coined by Dan Siegel, a psychiatrist in the US. Incredible man. He's a neuroscientist. Is one of the top. I think I follow him a lot because I think his work is marvelous. And he speaks about the window of tolerance as being chaotic and rigidity. Or either you are chaotic or rigid, and that is when you are away from your window of tolerance. Yeah. When you have both, and you can navigate that sort of stream, it's like being on the Nile. For argument's sake, one side is chaotic, and the other one side is rigidity, and you're a little boat trying not to hit the walls. Yeah. Right? So that's what window of tolerance is. What we know is, unfortunately, that window of tolerance becomes smaller when we are not exposed to adversity. This is what he says if it's dry, wet it. If you feel very comfortable, just really explore that space. But again, I come back to the same thing. In order to be able to explore, have the network, have the scaffolding around you to be able to explore that. And allow yourself to sit within it, which is the most. This is one of the things, as a therapist, you tend to take the feeling away from the client sometimes. And you want to tell me all about it, and that's taking the feeling away. Whereas I am in this, just keep it. I'm
sit
here.
With it.
Yeah, keep it. I'm here with you. And I think this is where a lot of value is, in order to expand that window of tolerance. To stay with it, with that feeling. Whatever that feeling is. It could be even happiness. Just stay with it, notice it.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to tap into that, but that's a big one, like the fear of being happy.
That's what we call the hell that we know. So there is a morphine-like, it's very interesting, there's a morphine-like substance that we have through emotions and stress that happens, secretes in the brain, in order for us to not, it's like we're impervious of feeling happy. Yes. But we don't want to feel happy, and that comes from a neurobiological perspective, which is quite interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, because it's familiarity.
Yeah.
It's what's familiar. Like for the longest time, if I've been depressed for a long time, So that's what's familiar. And,
Precisely.
and I use depressed like reluctantly because it's like I felt sad a lot, you know, but this is my comfort. You know, this is where the space I felt in, okay, I'm deep, and also I'm a 90s girl, so like there was something about that genre of darkness, you know, to yourself. But again, and now I found it very difficult to access happiness.
Yes, because, okay, so let me gather my thoughts on this. What was I saying? I got blank now.
It's okay. It's been a long conversation. It's about time you go blank.
Window of tolerance. Yeah, I've gone blank.
Yeah.
I've gone blank.
So back the window of tolerance is just, it makes me also hopeful about...
Okay, so I got it. Okay, so Stephen Porges speaks about our nervous system being very autistic. And we see life in the state that we're in. So let's just say, I come here, I'm afraid, everyone's going to be really scary for me. If I come here, I'm happy, everyone is going to be like a clown. We're going to be having fun, right? So our state will determine how I see my world. Yes? So when it comes to being autistic, he says, it's very interesting, he says our nervous system is very autistic. Even though that space will be painful, I much rather go there because I know I can handle it.
I relate.
And this is what happens, unfortunately, with domestic abuse. Women go back into that space. It's not because they have a conscious thought of going back to that space. And people say, why are you going back? This is not to do with the way they think. It's the way they feel. Because the moment that they go back, the rush of emotions will act as a morphine-like substance for them to feel slightly better and stay away from that pain, even though the pain will eventually come back within a space of nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's Epigenetics. There's a beautiful book called Mark Willen. Yes. Yeah. Sorry? The name of the book is It Didn't Start With You. And Mark Willen. And it's an incredible book. He talks about epigenetics, how it's been passed on through genes.
Yeah.
And it's not the gene that is passed on to us that causes a trauma. It's the predisposition of anything happening in our life and us triggering that trauma. Another thing that I need to add to this, which is very interesting, is a highly dysregulated mother. So when the mother is pregnant and is highly dysregulated, she will not only pass cortisol to the placenta, to the uterus, to the baby, but she will also pass the dissociative skills that the mother had. So the child will be prone at a later stage in life to be dissociated. Sorry?
شكرا يا تريفر مع السلامة. شكرا أشكرك. خلاص نكتفي بهذا القدر.
And I'm going.
You went there.
Sorry, I had to. I've got blood. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah, but okay. So let me just put a caveat here. So highly dysregulated can also be passed on from the dad to the child once the child is born, and is again we come back to the early development of the brain. It happens at the third trimester of pregnancy. However, it continues to develop. That's why the early years from 0 to 5 are so important and crucial. We're creating neural pathways. There's the cingulate, amygdala, and hippocampus. In between are the small fibers that stay there forever. And if those are unsafe for the child, the person will be prone to dissociate at a later stage in life. Sorry, I went in.
You went there.
How can we work around? Oh, sorry, there was a question there, sorry.
Yeah. What do we do now?
Create safety.
Mister.
Create safety, that's it. Create the safety, and safety comes without judgment. One thing that we are very aware of is transference. What is a client bringing into my session that she sees me through? This as parents, so let's just say client didn't have a affectionate dad, I am the affection, poof, that's the transference there, right? So parents are the same. I always say the same thing. When your child brings something to the table, how do you react to it? Notice that. Notice that. The biggest challenge that we find, because what we find is we want to be able to take over. And this is what we call, actually, Vincenzo Carretti, a psychologist from Italy, calls it helicopter parenting. And that is when we don't allow a child to grow, but we are constantly on top of them. And that comes from a deep sense of insecurity. So, as I'm not a great parent. I'm a parent. My son is 21 and my daughter is 18. But
is there a great parent? I don't think. Is there a great parent? I don't think that exists.
Course. So, it's being aware of how that is showing up for you as well, which is very important, and exploring that. So let's just say your child comes in with a particular issue, and you really get triggered. Explore that. It doesn't have to be in therapy. But at least sit down and journal and reflect on it and say, okay, well, good. And then you start creating the links with your own self. Okay, this, maybe I should be doing this. And maybe you can remember, rupture and repair is very important. The issue that we have, particularly in many relationships, is there's false reparation. That means that the repair is never done. We just move on from it. Let's explore. And repair is done by boundaries. And the boundaries come from a place of, I don't want this to happen to me again. And that's where the reparation is. And with our kids, it's exactly the same. I asked my son 2 weeks ago, where do you think I failed as a dad? Oh my God, he went for it. You know what he said to me, funny enough? He said to me, Dad, I would have wanted you to be more stern, but because of who you are, everyone's like, it's your journey, you do what you want, la, la, la. And now the kid is with earrings, tattoos everywhere, and he actually said this, and I would have been... wanted you to be a bit more stern with me.
Yes.
It's okay. So from now on, you're not going out. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. No, but I relate to that. And yeah, I relate. I had that conversation actually with, I had this conversation with my daughter. Yeah. And that was her request as well.
The same.
Exactly, because she needed grounding as literal that word, because it gave stability. It made her feel less responsible for herself.
Totally.
So it created safety in that sense. While I was giving her the freedom.
And where do you think that starts? It's very interesting. It starts when you were feeding her as a child, as a baby, whether she had a routine and she was told what to do. So those first neurons that you're creating neural pathways was created then. So that's why when it gets to a different stage in life and everything seems very chaotic,
she needs to go back to that kind of thing. I love that. I make lunch now. I promise I do that. I swear, I'm like, at 4, I'm going to be home cooking lunch. She'll come back from school. We're going to have lunch. Anything else, like creating that kind of rhythm that connects us. And that's...
I love that.
Yeah. Not a good cook.
No, neither am I.
But it's okay. So I feel like... Yeah, I think we're done. I think we're done.
Guys, thank you very much for coming.
It's amazing.
I will send all the books to her, and you need it one at a time, please. No, I'll send you a list of books. If you give me your emails, I'll send.
Yeah, we have the emails. Yes, I'll connect you guys, and
I'll give you a sequence of which books to read first. And let's go, please. Yes. It really depends on where the person is at in their own development and therapeutic journey. But if we are talking about major traumas, I will always ask the client to come to London, spend 4 or 5 days with me, and literally just hammer this trauma in from a place of safety. But again, coming back to the same thing, we need to create that space. And also, I need to be mindful that I might not have the skill sets, and that's okay. But I need to be honest about that. And in order for me to know that, I need to have conversations with you.
Fantastic. Yes. Anything else? Are we good?
We're good.
Are we happy?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was good.
Thank you. It was lovely. I'm so happy we caught the tongue tape because I need to go back to it and listen again and again and again. It's like HPS 05. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so. It was lovely.